Hey everybody, JJ here. It is Wednesday, April 12th, and I'm really excited about today's guest speaker. I talk about the Sub 2 community all the time, and I think a lot of you might be familiar with the name Pace Morby. Pace is well recognized within the real estate community as a genius, expert, if you will, in creative finance. The young man with us today is of equal regard. He is Pace's partner. He's a rock star within the real estate industry. Um, just a really, really nice young man. I'd like to introduce Cody Barton. Cody, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, JJ?
I'm
Happy to be here.
Thank you, brother. I'm great. Thanks for joining us today. Um,
Yeah.
so, really quick, for those that don't know you, let's start with this. Where in the country are you located?
I'm in Arizona. For those that know Arizona, I'm in Mesa, Arizona. For those that don't, Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. Now, in Mesa, do they have some of the baseball teams having their spring training there? Is that
Yeah, spring training happens over here. Yeah.
any of that? Cool. Yeah. I went down for the Dodger spring training 1 or 2 years ago. I think it was the year before COVID, and got to see, I guess it was the Brewers facility. So it was pretty neat. Drove out there, caught a game, saw some sub 2 people. So,
Nice. Love it.
let's talk about real estate. I think that's our topic here. We're all interested in that, and to have somebody of your esteem is very cool for all of us, and particularly myself. Um, how did you get into real estate? Was this something that we were around your family, something that was always there, or was it a transition from one part of the business to another, or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, so I mean for me, like when I was um younger, like in high school and stuff, like I always wanted to make a lot of money, like without going through this whole, story of all the things. But basically I watched my parents lose everything in '08, '09. It was like, my mom was a real estate agent, my dad had a small business, and we were living in like a big nice house, and we had quads and like toys and like all the things, and like life was good. And then all of a sudden, like '08, '09, and the quads are gone, and then like, oh, we're moving now, we don't live that house anymore, and now things are tight, and like we don't have money for things anymore. And so I went through that when I was like 12. So that was obviously impactful on me. And one of the things that kind of came out of that was I was like, man, like when I'm older, like I need to make a bunch of money so I don't have to ever like worry about this stuff. So basically was always doing something through high school to make money on the side, like buying and reselling stuff online, or whatever the case. And my background really came from, when I was 17, and a senior in high school, I got into network marketing originally, and worked within a company there, recruiting, building out teams across the world, in Europe, and across a few different states in the US. And so built a organization doing almost 3 million a year in revenue by
Oh,
when I was 18, 19, and did that till 21. And I was a knucklehead with my finances. I knew I wanted to make a lot of money, but there's also something you have to do once you make it, which is manage it the right way, which I did not do. And so spent it all like, you would expect an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to. Bought, new cars, was paying rent when I should have been buying a home, and buying all the designer stuff because I was stupid and knucklehead. And so did that. And then one day, when I was 21, that company basically shut down the model that they were doing. And so from getting paid every week and like life is good to like, oh, there's no more money coming in anymore. And I thought this was lasting forever. And so that happened. And obviously, I was in like the top 50 earners for that company, and like a face on like their websites and like a lot of their stuff. So like I had a lot of my identity tied up in it. So I was pretty tragically disappointed and kind of depressed after that. And so I was like, what the heck do I do now? And so for me, I was always interested in real estate. And I'd read Robert Kiyosaki's books, and it's like, own rental properties and like own real estate. And so I'm like, I want to invest in real estate, but I don't know how. So I got my real estate license. And then I learned for 2 years of serving clients and building a small real estate team that just because you have your license and you're an agent doesn't mean you invest in real estate. So, to 2 years of doing that. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. Really transition to then, wholesaling. Cause I just didn't want to be focused on a business that I was just serving clients. I was in real estate to acquire properties and build, wealth over the long run. So that was, kind of the transition. So switched to that. And, when I was like 23 and, 28 turning 29 next month. And, we got a lot of other things going on since then, but yeah, that was kind of the journey, I guess, in the shortened form.
You're an amazing young man. We see a lot of those of us that are older, see a lot of young people out there that are struggling, not only in their 20s but in their 30s. And to see a young man that is your age uh, has his head screwed on straight and has done the right thing is a testimony, a tribute to yourself as well as your parents, because they've raised a very nice young man, which is obvious, and you've got your head screwed on straight, which is fantastic. Um, so you started this real estate journey, and I've come to know you through the Sub 2 community, and have had the pleasure to meet you in Arizona at the mastermind, and I hope to get there again next month if that's possible. But tell me, I think there's probably a lot of people are probably curious. How did you come to meet Pace, and how did that association develop? That's something I'm sure people are curious about.
Yeah, so it was interesting because I had my wholesale business, and I was doing a couple deals a month, like 2, 3 deals a month, just doing everything on my own. This was like 2018, and I was just cruising away. I was still at that time. I thought that you had, if you weren't this like rock star closer, that you're basically going to be poor forever, and not make the big money. And so, it wasn't until kind of me and Pace came together that my mindset around that changed. And I'll explain that in a minute. But essentially, like I was doing a couple deals, 2 to 3 deals a month, doing everything on my own, had a couple VAs, and then I had, just myself like working the leads and doing the acquisition. And so, was doing fine, but I wanted to do way better than I was and like get deeper deals. And so, I would always, I had my dual monitor set up in the townhome that I was living in. And so I would always have on one screen like so a podcast while I'm working. So it just like kept me excited as I'm going through the work and like hearing inspirational stories. And then, it's like it's a grind when you're following up with the leads and just like outreach cold to people all day long. Like you're just getting like your head bashed in against the wall all day. And so um essentially like I was listening to the podcast with Steve Trang, and Pace was on there, and he was talking about being a great closer. And he's like, if you have leads in Arizona, like I'll help you work them. And I was like, I have leads and I'm in Arizona. Come to find out, we literally lived like 2.5 miles from each other, which was really strange. Like this happened to happen. So basically, lived a couple of miles from reached out, basically said, hey, I'm generating a lot of leads. I want to get deeper deals, but I'd love to learn from you. Can I just give you my leads and you close them? I don't need to make any money on them, but I want to watch you do your sales process so I could learn and get better. And so that was basically my initial message to him. And he's like, hey, I'm down for that. Let's do it. And then like a week went by, and like he was, kind of pushing off getting together. And then like I kept following up, and then yeah. So anyway, long story short, we ended up meeting after, he was going to go to the tournament. We ended up meeting, worked some leads, and, within 4 weeks, we got 5 contracts together, and, then just kept working together ever since, honestly.
As we're building our businesses, you were saying that in the beginning you had taken on many different roles, and
Yeah.
I guess to grow your business, you saw that you had to start to delegate some things. What were some of the things that you first saw that were things that you would consider, looking for other people to take on?
Yeah. So, well, I think, there's a couple parts to that question, and I might actually use my whiteboard for this to kind of draw it out a little bit. But really, when it comes to delegating, it's not as simple as just like, hey, I need to delegate. It's, understanding like who, you are as an individual is like a big piece of that as well. So it's like you have your acquisition, you have your disposition, you have your general administrative stuff, and then you have like your lead gen, right? when we're looking at delegation, like for us in our business, like if I looked at myself, like I didn't like doing sales. So like acquisition would be one of those first things that I would want to be getting help with. But if it was like, you say it's the flip side and it's pace, right? Like me and him came together and all of these things complemented well. But generally, like everyone that's watching this right now, between these four things, generally everyone is going to have a different interest level in the things that they do in their business than somebody else does in their business, right? So for me, I liked doing lead gen. I didn't mind doing admin. I liked doing dispo. I hated doing acquisition, but I would do it because I had to, right? So when we're looking at like the things to delegate first in a business, it always comes down to the individual's talents and their own unique skill sets and abilities. And so for example, for in this example, like if somebody's considering like, okay, like as I start growing, like what should I delegate first? The question that you really want to be asking yourself is like, what do I love to do? Because if I'm a big believer in building a business that serves you, and not a business that becomes as you're a servant to the business, setting up a business that can build just beyond yourself. And so a big part of that is like doing what you love, because even if you have people on your team doing things and you're hating what you're doing every day, well, what's the point? Why are we building a business that we hate everything that we have to do every day? And so for me, when I looked at this, like I liked doing lead gen, but what did I not like to do within lead gen? I didn't like to cold call myself. And so one of those things that I did was, I hired virtual assistants to generate my cold call leads. So that's just, one example of that, right? And then another part was, I was doing text marketing as well at that time. So I outsourced the text marketing and cold calling just to a VA. And so like that was one of my first, I guess, for just talking about like what was one of the first things, like that was one of the first things that I delegated to be able to elevate. And it's delegating is not about your delegation isn't about like giving things, to other people so that you could do nothing all day. It's about giving things to other people so that you can focus on the higher dollar per hour activities, because if we have different, all of our goals are going to be a little bit different. But like if your goal is to, make a certain amount of money, say if your goal is to make, like $1 million a year is $500 an hour, $500,000 a year is $250 an hour. Like as you go back and you work through that and understand like, how much do I want to make a year? And then looking at the tasks that you're doing, and, it's something that we help people with at Start Virtual. And, part of what Rihanna does, through our business process coaching here, is we help people, it's really about understanding the what is your time worth base, and then understanding, does it make sense for you to do those tasks? And so like that's why starting off, like some of the first things I did was get the texting and cold calling off my plate so that the leads could come in and then I could just work those leads. And until I could then afford, to have somebody else work those leads for me. So I don't want to go too much into the weeds on this, but JJ, if you have any, questions or want any, other insight on that, happy to.
Yeah. No, I guess what I want to talk about is when you talk about someone else doing the acquisitions, bringing the leads in, that were you then closing at that period in time? Were you focusing more on closing? Is that what you want to?
Yeah. So when I was having the leads come in, then I was focused on doing the lead management and then the acquisition of those actual deals. And so, but I didn't like doing that. I didn't like it, but I was like, well, this is like, you can't just delegate. Like in business, you either have a lot of money and not a lot of time, or you have time and you don't have a lot of money. And if you don't have either of those, then obviously it makes it more challenging, but you could still do it. So like this was a position where I'm like, I had some money in savings, but like I wasn't confident enough to just go hire out a whole team and then hope it all worked out either, So I took it more as like baby steps. I'm like, I'm going to get my lead gen coming in on autopilot, so I have consistent leads to talk to. I'm going to get great at having, conversations to disqualify leads and qualify the good opportunities, and then work on, the closing side of those myself. And so it really, I didn't delegate, I guess, to an acquisition person at, when me and Pace partnered. It was really Pace was the acquisition person when we first came together. And it wasn't until some time later that then we eventually hired some acquisition people in our company. And then he kind of stepped out of that and just was more of a mentor coach to them.
And that's John with Cody Barton. What's your question?
Hey guys. Hey, Cody. Nice to see you in person, man. How are you today?
Doing good. How are you?
I just wanted to ask you, man, how long did it take? You said you were like basically Pace kind of took your leads and kind of helped you close them, and you learned from him, right? What did that process look like? How long did it take you to feel more comfortable on your own, closing those deals?
Yeah. So I mean, before that, so I had experience. So, okay, let's start going back a little bit. So when I worked as a real estate agent, like one of the things they tell you to do is work your sphere of influence. I was 21 when I started as an agent. My sphere of influence was a bunch of broke kids. So there was no sphere to really work. So I couldn't just go work the sphere. And so I generated all of my business as an agent through open houses and then cold calling expireds, canceled, for sale by owners, and then just straight cold calling farming neighborhoods that I wanted listings in. And so I was doing 30, 35 deals a year as an agent, and through just doing that. So I was fine at closing, but I wasn't great. I was just of 10 closable opportunities, I'll probably get 3 out of 4, versus a Pace that's going to get 9 out of 10. Right. So it's I just put in the reps. And so that's, I guess, just a lesson for those that may not be as good at closing, is you just have to put in more reps. And it's well, that's not fair. It's well, it's just, what life is sometimes. I just wasn't great. So I would just do more to create the opportunities. And so I had that background already of signing listing agreements from cold calls and, working with buyers from, open houses and stuff. So I had some of that background. So I was able to get 2-3 deals a month done, prior to me and Pace coming together, but they were always low, assignment fees. Cause I would be too nice and I'd give the seller more than I should have offered. And then I would, want to help my buyer out. Instead of making 15, I make 5. And I'm why did I just work that hard for $5,000 and, help everyone else out about myself? And so, so that, that was definitely a thing. And really then what happened was once me and Pace got together, I had leads and like I was saying, within a month, we literally got 5 contracts. I just brought my hottest leads that I was working. And then I was just here they are. Open up my computer while he was eating a Big Mac at McDonald's. And then we called through them and I just put them on the phone with Pace, set up appointments. And yeah, within 4 weeks, 5 contracts. And yeah, so I didn't actually end up closing because after the deal was that we got 5 deals. And then I was working on selling the deals once we got them. And then after that month, then we were getting more deals and I was just teeing them up. I would generate the leads. I would lead manage them, set up appointments for Pace. And then he would just go and get the contract. So I didn't end up even ever stepping into sales again. I just, that was what it turned into. And then, we ramped up the leads and then, eventually, hired Dispo and then other acquisition people to work under him. And I would hold our acquisition people accountable because I'm a, pretty decent manager. And then he would mentor them on the actual tactics of sales and stuff. So.
That's awesome, man. You said, you were willing to give him the leads for free to learn how to do it. So at what point did you decide that you were worth a paycheck, or, when did you team up with him and officially kind of start getting paid on some of those?
Yeah. So basically the first lady, I remember the property was on Wolf Street in Maryvale here in West Phoenix. And so the lady's name was Desiree. So we, as once we got her to agree to a price, Pace basically was hey, I'm not going to just take all the money from this. Let's just, it's just 50-50 these deals. He's I appreciate it, but I want you to be happy with this arrangement. And if we're doing deals together, he's everything's good. And so that was just kind of what naturally happened. I didn't prompt it. He was just hey, I don't want you to be, mad or, resentful or anything towards me for making the money. So I'd rather us just both make 50-50 on these and let's just do more deals. So that was what ended up happening.
That's awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, buddy.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Lance. Good to see you, my friend. How you doing, Jasper? You're on with Cody Barton. What's your question?
Hey, thank you. So, yeah, one of my questions is, I always viewed delegating as something that where your schedule was so busy, where like it only made more business dollar sense to like delegate those tasks. But like, I guess I'm like in a situation where I feel like I have enough time to do A to Z because I'm not getting a lot of stuff in like my own personal business. And so would you say like, would you wait until that time where like you can't really handle all the stuff to start delegating?
So I always think of it as this, right? Like, what is the highest dollar per hour activity that you could be doing and focusing all of your time and attention to be able to do that as much as possible? Like, for example, like, let's say someone makes 250 grand a year. That's basically about $125 an hour if it's on a 40-hour work week. So if you look at that, and if somebody's, makes 250 grand a year, $125 an hour, would it make sense for that person that makes $125 an hour to do their own landscaping in their yard, wash their own cars, spending hours washing their own cars, cleaning their own house, doing their grocery shopping? Like, those are just like some examples. But like, if someone spends 2 hours grocery shopping and they're like, value to the marketplace, which is their earnings that they make on an annual basis, $125 an hour times 2 hours, they just wasted $250 of earning opportunity in those 2 hours of doing a lesser task. So the conversation really becomes about like, where can you make the biggest impact? And that's what the focus is. It's not, even if you have the time to do something, like I have time to clean my house on Sundays, but I want to relax because I just worked my ass off all week. So I don't want to clean my house. So it's like, and I know that's not like specific to, the work that you're doing, but like just trying to, make that relatable of like, where are you spending your time? Do you have like a specific kind of like any couple examples? And I'd be happy to like kind of talk on that, with you, of like things that maybe you're working on and give you some insight there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so exactly. So I'm still working with Daniel stuff. So I'm still working on his leads, but I'm
Yeah.
still starting to build out my own thing. And while I'm doing that, I've just been doing some cold calls on my own, setting up the systems and processes before I onboard a VA. But then I was thinking, while I was doing these cold calls, like prospecting, I just have like more time than I thought. And so like I'm able to manage, lead managing plus acquisition plus like doing my own prospecting.
Yeah. So if you look at it in like on a ladder of like, where's like, let me ask you this. Where do you think is the highest dollar per hour thing that you could be doing in your business every day?
Acquisitions,
right? So the goal would be, how do you get it to the point where all you're doing pretty much most of the day, every day, is talking to a motivated seller and trying to do acquisitions? And so what you have to do is look at, okay, if I have all this free time, that means that I don't have enough leads, that it's causing me to always be in acquisition. So there's a lead flow problem. So it's like, I need to increase my lead flow. And it's like, what are the ways that you can do that? And so it's just like, it's going through kind of those questions. Well, if my highest dollar per hour thing I could be doing is acquisitions, then how do I make it so I'm only doing that? And like working towards and doing everything you can to get to be able to just be focusing on that. And if it's like, well, I don't have the budget to really blow up my lead gen, then it's like, well, then it's, hey, maybe you have to do some of the lead gen on your own. And I would try to do the higher leverage stuff like texting. And if you're going to call, like super niche list yourself, because it's really not a high dollar, activity for you to be doing. So I would just be looking at that and seeing how does Jasper do the highest dollar thing, which is acquisition, all day long, and getting everything else to create an environment for you to just be doing that so that you can make the most money with the time that you're going to be working.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Jasper, good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Rayana Starr, you're on with Cody Barton. What's your question?
Hey, Cody, I'm just curious. It was around the holidays and you had this idea about this educational product about this very thing. How did that idea come up for scaling with VAs? And could you tell them a little more about it?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and then, I guess if anyone, wants to kind of hear on that, they could, reach out to you directly too, Rihanna. But, essentially, like, I have these conversations a lot. Like, a lot of people approach me like regularly, and they'll be like, how do you do it all? And how do you get all this crap done, that all these pace crazy ideas, and like doing all of the things, having the real estate companies, having this like media company, Start Virtual, all the real estate holdings, the flips, the Airbnbs, like we have a lot of things going on. And the key to all of that is not me doing all of it. It's really talented, amazing, great core value fit people that work within our companies that do a lot of these things, and they're the ones that deserve all the credit for that. But what I've realized is a lot of people are like, well, how does that happen? Like, how do you do that? And so I think, as far as what Rihanna is referencing, I was like, man, like a lot of people ask about that. So, I think it would make sense to just like put something together to kind of help people with that. And so I guess just what Rihanna is referencing there, with scaling with VAs is, you can use it for that, but it also is helpful for even US based hires, like whether it's, a W-2 or 1099 hire, a lot of the principles are the same. And essentially what I go through, in the scaling with VAs program is really just hey, like where are you, this is like, you're a business owner, like where are you spending your time, like an audit of where you're spending your time. And then also talking about, from the audit of that, like how much is your time worth, and then like where do you want to go, how much do you want to earn, what is your goal, and then me basically kind of teaching you how to like break that down, and then look at, okay, well, now that you know how much you want to make, and now you know how much, what you should be spending your time on, what are the things that you should be looking at delegating. And then from there, I basically kind of take you through on, okay, well, now you know what you need to delegate. How do you actually find someone to hire? If it's a virtual assistant, how do you find them to hire them? How do you actually, interview them the right way? Because I do, I am an owner at Start Virtual, so I do plug Start Virtual in there. But I also talk about other strategies of how you could hire a VA outside of Start Virtual as well. But I talk about that interview process, the actual hiring, and then the onboarding, and then the ongoing management of people on your team as well. And then we've kind of included, in there, Rihanna and I actually worked with a few different business owners, and we took them step by step kind of through that whole process, and we kind of dropped that all into there. So, and that's something, I guess, Rihanna, if, people want to reach out to you to kind of like learn more about that, like happy to, have people to do that. But really it just comes down to is like a lot of people, there's a few areas that you could spend your time in your business. It's you could be the manager, or the person that's making the technician, or the entrepreneur. And if you're the technician, you're doing all of the things in your business. You're the widget maker. If you're the manager, you're the one that's managing the widgets being made. If you're the entrepreneur, you're the one that's increasing efficiencies so that the manager can more efficiently manage, and the widget maker can efficiently make more widgets. So like there is a lot of things that you can be doing in a business. And it's like there's a reason that some people, they end up doing everything themselves, and they're kind of a solopreneur, solo technician in their business forever. And there's a reason that other people are able to delegate, to elevate, and go to next levels in their business. And a lot of it is around like mindset and understanding like what that actually looks like to make that transition. And then the other part is like also letting go. Within delegation, it's scary. You're going to give someone else something to do in your business, and they might screw it up. Spoiler alert. They're going to screw it up. You probably screwed up stuff too. That's okay. That's part of being a business owner. And like, and I've seen this in, family members of mine that are business owners, and like, they never really, they always stayed in that technician role for years, and they never really were able to scale themselves out of doing everything in their business. And it usually comes like this. And if any of these things like hit home for you, that is a sign that you have to, make some changes. If you want it done right, you have to. Anyone heard that? You have to what?
you have to hire someone that does it better than you.
Well, that's the right way.
Do it
It's
yourself.
it's do it yourself. Like that's the thing. Like, you know, the old adage, like if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. Can't hire. There ain't no good workers out there. Can't hire anybody. Like everybody doesn't care. They just don't give a damn. Like it's that old school mentality that, you know, there's a lot of people that have it. And here's the thing. You're going to hire people. They're going to be great. You're going to hire other people. They're going to suck. Maybe the first person you hire ever sucks. Maybe the first person you hire is amazing. But that's part of dealing with people and business. And that is a part of, you know, building a business beyond yourself, and like delegating to actually elevate yourself to a higher level of business is being able to do those things and being okay that, hey, I might mess this up, and having the grace of I might hire, whether it's a VA or I might hire, you know, another US based person, and they might just not do a good job. So then it's taking yourself from like the victim mentality and taking it to a victor mentality of like, no matter what, this is a victory, this is a win, because if I hire someone and they do a bad job, it's what did I learn? How can I screen candidates better? When I hired them, how could I have onboarded them better? How could I have trained them better? How could I have supported them better? What are the things that I'm lacking in my skill set to be able to better manage people? What are the things that I'm lacking that I could do to better support people? And that's the mind shift that kind of has to change is, you know, it's taking 100% accountability for what's going on in your life and your business. And, you know, that's, I have these conversations because people reach out to me, and like, I'm saying this from a place of like, there are people out there like, oh, like, you know, I hired people and they screw me and they don't do a good job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and they're like, I've went through dozens of people. And in my head, I'm like, well, what's the one common denominator of the last 10 people you hired all failing? You were involved in those last 10 people that all failed. So sounds like there might be something that you screwed up, because if you're not getting better each time you hire someone, it means you're not learning. So kind of a tangent there, but I know we had another question, it looked like, from Felicia.
Yeah, I think Rayon had a little follow-up to that though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, your tangents are good, Cody. Everyone who's listening, who's here today, like, this is his area of expertise. I mean, so Cody, you know, just to back up a minute, where was it that you and Pace, when was it? Because you guys, here's the thing, guys, he started Start Virtual at the beginning of the pandemic. He did no marketing for the first 2 or 3 years of the business and grew it to a multi-million-dollar business because we need this. We became a virtual reality. So Cody, talk a little bit about where you saw a need in the market and why you started up Start Virtual, because he owns a business to help people do just that. That's how adamant and passionate he is about this, of delegate to elevate. I would love for you to share the story about how you and Pace decided to start Virtual.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing was like, I mean, we were tossing around the idea and we're like, maybe we could do this. And it was really just because a lot of our friends were like, how are you guys getting so many deals? And we're like, well, we have a bunch of people on our virtual assistant team that are like doing lead gen, and then like lead management and all of that. And they're like, how that, like, I don't understand. You have like freaking 3 humans in your office. And like, how are you guys doing so many deals? And it's like, well, yeah, we have another 15 in the Philippines, you know? So it's like, we had this team that was all virtual that was supporting our business. And, it really came to, well, we had enough people asking us. And so we actually just helped a few friends. We're like, I don't know, like we'll ask our VAs, like if they know anyone. And so we helped a few people that way. And then we're like, man, like a lot of people keep asking us, maybe we should just start a business around this. And that was kind of how it started. And we weren't going to start until summer of 2020. But I remember it was February 2020 and we're like, yeah, like maybe this summer, end of Q2, beginning of Q3, like we'll start this thing. And Then the pandemic, got announced like end of March. It was like the national emergency. And then like I remember calling Pace and I was like, we should start this like today because we don't know what this is going to look like. And so that was kind of how it started. And it was really just kind of like helping people kind of delegate their like some of the low dollar tasks. And obviously like their delegating isn't just delegating, like there's like processes that have to be created and like things that have to happen to like make things be able to work and run. And it's never perfect either, but that was kind of why we started, was just a lot of people were asking us to help them with it. And it just was a really good fit for our business. And we're like, well, if it helps us, we could probably help other people with it too. So yeah.
That sounds great, Cody. I myself am dealing with the aspect of delegation and offloading stuff. I've got a number of shopping centers and got our Zoom call, and I'm in the curriculum of Sub 2 trying to learn creative finance. And I've been approached by at least 3 to 4 different VA companies and get countless requests through cold calling to get VAs. When one engages VA assistance, what can one expect? I mean, I've heard about Fiverr, Upwork. Should someone start there the first time? I've been approached by a company recently that wants to charge me $1,000 a month to use their VAs. What's the best way to get started for someone who's looking to implement VAs?
Yeah, so I am going to shamelessly plug, but the scaling with VAs, like little info product that I made it last December. And it really just kind of outlines a lot of it, where I think, because I don't like telling people, hey, go hire a VA. Because it's like, you go tell someone, go hire a VA from regardless of wherever. Somebody may have never hired somebody ever in their life, number one. They may have never managed another human in their life, number two. Number three, they may not even be a good business owner yet. And then tack on that the other 25 things of people's insecurities and limiting beliefs and like uncertainties and, not understanding their market, not understanding how to comp, not understanding like all of the other things to, succeed in their business. And then you just throw like, hey, yeah, go hire another human to, do it. And, hopefully it works out for you. So I do, mention that just because I kind of go over like what is the mindset and like foundationally, like what are the principles you need to know? Because regardless of where you go hire from, like you have a couple routes. You're going to go to a agency, or you're going to go and do it on your own. So an agency like a Start Virtual, where we funnel people in, we funnel recruits in, we interview, we train, and then we place and help with management and things like that at Start Virtual. It's always going to be more expensive. Or you have the route of doing it on your own, which you can go to like an Upwork, you can go to an onlinejobs.ph. Like there's a lot of other websites you could do that and go hire people directly. The challenge really just becomes on those things is just, if you don't know anything about business or hiring or training or managing or interviewing, it becomes a challenge because you don't know anything about those things. So how do you know whether you made a good decision with your hire or not? And then once you hire them, how do you know to manage them? How often should you meet with them? How do you track their hours? How do you track their progress, success, KPIs, like all of those things? So that's, places like agencies like help with a lot of the load and like the HR side and like, they didn't, work out. It's like, okay, like you have to fire them yourself. Or with an agency, it's just like, hey, you tell the manager, hey, this one's not working out. Let's like, can I get somebody else? And, I need to get someone else in this role. So those are really the two main routes that people go. It's just self-source and just make sure you have things dialed in to know how to do that, or go to an agency that'll kind of help you out along the way. Just going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're paying for the expertise of like, having a lot of those things helped for you as well.
That sounds invaluable. And I think from what I understand, talking to most people, the hardest thing is if you don't have a service, if you're not engaging a company, I think the hardest thing is to verify, hours worked and the fact they are working. I hear about people take screenshots and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure you guys have that all worked out. And at the end of the call, we'll hear more about Start Virtual and how to follow up with you and get into that kind of stuff. We got a couple more questions I want to take really quick.
Yeah.
Felicia Smith, you are on with Cody Barton. What's your question?
Thank you, JJ and Cody. Hello. I just wanted to say
Hello.
that I have experiences of interviewing with the virtual side of persons or people from the Philippines, and I also have role played with them. So in certain situations, so that has really helped. But my question is for you is what I'm kind of sliding off a little bit. What software would you recommend for CRMs and for comping?
Yeah. So, I mean, comping, like you can use, I mean, honestly, you could use Zillow. I'm always going to try to tell you like the free tools to use first before I say like, hey, go use a paid tool, you know. Zillow, you can do some pretty good damage comping with, you know, so like that would be like one of the ones if you want to look at like a paid tool. Batch Leads has a pretty decent, you know, comping tool in their program. The best is always going to be the local MLS system, the multiple listing service. So like a real estate agent's, you know, platform within the state that you're in or the local market that you're in. That's always going to be the number one. But like if you can't get access to that, it's like Zillow. Rihanna said Privy. I've never used Privy, so I just don't know. But you know, that's another one to probably look at in your research. And then as far as a CRM, again, I'm always like, hey, don't spend a bunch of money. You know, I'm always like, especially when people are like kind of getting the ball rolling, like don't get $97 a month to death as best as you can. But so you can, you know, save as much money and, you know, put as much into things that matter as much as you can, which like lead gen more so. But you can go on like, for example, you can go on podio.com and then you can create a free account. And then there's templates. Like if you go to their free marketplace, you could download templates for lead management and things for your real estate business, and it's free 99. So that's a decent starting place. I'm not saying that's the best all-inclusive solution for a CRM, but like starting off, like you don't need a lot, and that's sufficient starting off, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm at that point where I'm paying $97 a month for Privy, and I'm running out of funds. And so it's good, but I wanted to know, you know, what do I really need to start? So that's helpful.
Yeah, they try to, you know, as much as you can, you know, like Frank said, you know, Podio for CRM as a starting one. I think you could hold up to like 100 leads or something in there for free. And then after that, it's like $29 a month. And you could use some of their free templates. So
Mario Finkbeiner, you're on with Cody. What's your question?
Hey, Cody, how you doing? Long time no see since the mastermind, right?
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. First, thank you for your time. The two questions is, when did you determine which one you were, like an integrator or that? And the second question, I guess, is like I really resonated with the E-Myth and Go Giver. Is there two books or any books that you recommend to kind of identify the different personalities or what would improve you, you know, in your business with your partner?
Have you read Rocket Fuel?
Long time ago.
I would maybe reread that one again, but I would say like when you're thinking about like integrator versus visionary, do you wake up in the morning and want to get on the phone with strangers and try to sell them something? Is that what gets you excited?
I like solving people's solutions, you know, homeownership challenges. So yeah, I don't mind calling people.
So probably more towards a visionary, because when I wake up in the morning and I think about having to call people, I get anxiety.
No, I'm the opposite.
So that, you know, like and obviously it's not like an all inclusive, but like it would be probably good to read Rocket Fuel again. But like, I just say it's like leaning into the things you love to do. And like, those are the things that you long-term probably should be doing. Like anyone can temporarily be both, right? So like do what you have to do until you could do what you want to do. But like, I think it's important to figure out, okay, of all the things that I can do, that I need to do in this business, what are the things that I love to do the most? And then how do I come up with a plan of when can I get support or help in those areas that I really don't like to do, so that I could focus on what I like to do the most. Because I think life's too short to do things that you hate. So I try to get out of the things I hate the most as fast as I can now at all chances possible. So I think that's, a good rule of thumb is just, what you wake up and you naturally like really like to do and like figure out how to do those things. Obviously, like there's still hard times and like talking to sellers that are buttholes and stuff, and it's like not always fun, but that's the definitely what I would say.
We've got Jasper back. Jasper, you're on Cody Barton.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, just had a quick question about, so I was thinking about improving the product of wholesaling from an acquisition standpoint, and I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that. Is that like, are those like product just only like a service-based business, like building like a VA team, like a VA company like yours, or do you have any ideas on like how to
Improving the product? I guess I'm confused on what's the question.
So, so Alex Hormozy talks about like improving the product of the business, and I was thinking from an acquisition standpoint, is there a way to improve the product of acquiring like wholesale deals?
I think it's just like utilizing, obviously you could do market research, see what lead gen types work the best in the markets you're doing business in, and then optimizing for that. So it's like, say a market's PPC is the best one. It's like going hard on that. And then, having a couple tiers of the things that work well there. And then obviously like the product is like your process. Like the process is what you sell to a seller. It's how easy it's going to be for them, how simple it's going to be, how seamless it's going to be, how hands off it's going to be. Like that's the product you're selling. Like you're not ever on the phone with the seller just like, yep, I'll give you 150,000. And they're like, okay, let's do it. It's like, oh, I got, I got 17 cats and, my kids don't help me with anything anymore. And it's like, how do you make the, the best product? And it's like having the best process to solve all of their problems in a seamless way that makes them feel like they're hitting the easy button. So it's like, that's our product that we provide is the service and the process of making it seamless and easy and as least stress as possible. So it's like, how do you do that? How can you improve communication with a seller when you get them under contract? Could you have automated emails going out? Can you have, reminder text messages going out at certain stages? Hey, escrow is now officially opened. Hey, we're 10 days away from closing. You're going to get an email from title. They're going to be requesting these 5 things. Make sure you get those in. That'll help us close on time. Hey, I know you're moving out of state. If you didn't already have a moving company lined up, here's 3 highly recommended movers in our local area that other sellers that we've worked with in the past before have given us great reviews. And so just if you need it, they're there and they're a resource for you. So it's like, how do you make the process way better than anyone else does? Like that's our product.
Cody, I want to really thank you for being on. My group's a networking group, and I try and impress upon people the importance of networking and to build their business. And whether someone's a brand new investor or they're a seasoned investor, and they're now coming into the form of social media, whether it's joining one of the many groups like Sub2 that has a Facebook community, everyone thinks they can do it on their own, but what is the importance of networking or joining a networking group like mine to further the success of somebody's business?
So I would say being a part of a community is probably one of the most important parts of being in business. Because like life's meant to be shared, and it's like if you're doing everything by yourself, and it's a lot harder because the hard days are extra hard, and the wins are not as fun because it's like if you're just winning and then there's no one to celebrate it with, it's like it's not as exciting. So I think being a part of networking groups, are some of the best things that you can do, and it's like birds of a feather flock together. It's like of like, we're going to attract like. And so I think it's extremely important. And, I think that also where you audit the dollar per hour that you make and making sure you're delegating to elevate, you also should be auditing the people you're spending your time with. And, it's like who you're spending your time with is who you're eventually going to become. It's like, you look at the average of the 5 people you spend time with, your health is probably similar. You probably eat at the same restaurants. You probably, exercise a similar amount. Your finances are probably similar. You probably make within, 25% up or minus of what they're probably making in income. In your closest friend group, your relationships, the way that you treat your family is probably similar, because it's like if you, if somebody is like, for example, like, a big example for like me and Pace is like, we would never do business with someone that like cheats on their wife. It's like, because if they would do that to their own significant other, it's like, what would they do to us? So it's like, it's just like, we really look at things like like for me, I really am super, critical on like who I spend my time with, because it's like, that's who's pouring into your brain. Is it positivity and uplifting things and goals and dreams and accomplishments and visions of, new things and, accomplishing more? Or is it negativity and, talk gossip and talking about negative things and, talking about the good old days? Like the good old days are today, tomorrow. It's where we're going and where we are today. So those are big things. And, sometimes people can get, a little bit offended when I tell them like they got to change their friend groups. But, that's a big part of like why you get into networking groups, masterminds, coaching groups. Like Lance said, it's like you are who you associate with. And so, you got to look at like, are the people that I'm surrounding myself more of who I want to become like, or am I going to be stagnant and, stuck if I'm staying in this same circle? So that's super important. The people I spend my time around, generally most of them make, either similar or significantly more money than me. And then, like my health, like generally like a lot of my like close associate friends, like we're all similar in health. Right. So, those are just things to look at, and it's not all inclusive of what'll make you successful, but it sure doesn't, hurt to have people around you that are positive and supporting you in your wins and, holding your back and having your back when you're down, versus having the negative friends that are like, oh, I told you that, wasn't going to work, or, just keep your job and you got a good thing going here, so it's like that who you associate with, super critical.
Yeah, it's so true. And as you said, you mentioned earlier, the 5 people we surround ourselves with, and we talk about, scaling up our lives, and to scale up our life, we scale up our business. And that means, who are we with, whether it's, as you just said, personally as well as professionally. And I think you're right on with that. So again, I really, really want to thank you for being with us today. If you guys are watching the video right now on YouTube, please like Cody's presentation, put some comments in the chat. Please support Cody. Oh, one more thing, Cody, people want to reach you, get in touch with you, maybe regarding Start Virtual. What's the best way to do that? Is there a particular website, Instagram, MySpace? What's
MySpace? I didn't know people still use MySpace, but Rihanna, for in the chat here could post her email, to get more information there. Obviously, people can go to startvirtual.com to get more info there.
Okay.
But specifically that scaling with VAs, info product would be helpful for those that are looking to, hire VAs successfully, or just hiring successfully in general. Would be super helpful for people. So, but otherwise, they could reach out questions or anything to Rihanna directly there as well. And yeah.
Look for more videos coming out on Flipside Up with JJ, more great speakers through many communities. And of course, the Sub 2 community, we're have just rock stars all over the place. Cody, again, thank you so much. Everybody else, hang tight. We're about to go to the breakout rooms. You can be in a breakout room with Cody Barton. Hang on. Cody, I guess we'll tell everybody goodbye, and we'll see them later. Over and out, folks.
Sounds good.